with some of these early stage companies in terms of everything from helping the scientist form an entity to the value that you add in that process, nurturing the companies along in the early stages?
Well, what you said is exactly what very frequently ends up happening. There is an idea, but you first have to form a company. We can help them form the company. They have back office things that have to be taken care of. Someone's got to write checks. Somebody has to do books. You have to go get the right licenses, file the tax returns, and then help with licensing and contracts with first customers and the like. So we tend to be more activist in that regard and are willing to work at that early stage, which unfortunately most VCs stay away from, because it takes too much time and too much effort, and the return on what that investment might be. At a very early stage, you're typically not investing $50 million, you're investing a small amount of money. So the investment in time is more than the capital may be. But that's what you need to do. If you're not prepared to do that, then you can't invest in this kind of space, in my opinion. You have to be prepared to do what's necessary to help the young company over the hurdles of getting out of academia and into commerce.
Okay, so I want to throw this topic over to the other three of you guys. If you could just discuss your view on the process of taking technology from the lab into the business world, and what you think the best way to go about that is, and what you think some of the challenges are. Why don't we start with the end, Scott, and work our way back.
Well, I have my head of healthcare, Mustafa Analoui, does all that stuff for me. He maintains relationships with pretty much all the startups and early stage companies and so on. So the first thing that we do is make sure that the science and the management team passes the sniff test internally, and then we start leveraging our network to help our client companies pretty much with everything they have. We have a network of scientists and experienced corporate executives, both active and looking for new opportunities to sit on advisory boards and so on and so forth, that we bring to bear. And in each deal that we do, or in each company that we help or represent, we bring a unique team to that opportunity. It's very fashionable these days to talk about crowdfunding as a source of raising capital, and we're really not. It's more kind of crowdsourcing talented people and new ideas and so on and so forth that we're looking to do more than crowd. We don't do crowdfunding, but there's a lot of people out there that are a lot smarter and more experienced in these areas than I am. So we just bring them all together to the extent that we can on each deal that we do, and each deal is different. So.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, give you a little background. Procare tends to work with a little bit later stage companies, typically. One of the things that we're looking for is validation. Companies that have made it through to late stage clinical trials, or have actually some approved products with some other products that may be even bigger projects that with better potential, that are actually a little bit earlier stage. But something to help validate that, because I think more and more, especially since 2008, the investment community seems to have become much more conservative about the types of companies that they back. Obviously, well-known researchers who had a track record of successful business startups that have then turned out to be real winners are able to sort of get funding a lot easier. But first-time entrepreneurs, it's a challenge. So one of the things that I think has been a very way for companies to get further along is through NIH grants, these types of things, which is non-dilutive financing. The more of that you can do in the earlier stages, the better off you are.
Larry?
No, I definitely agree with the grants and non-dilutive funding. What I've seen over the last 13, 14 years is that the scientists are great at what they do. They're very bright. They know mechanism of action, and we help with mechanism of action to exit. So there are critical things that need to be accomplished, like the right endpoints and setting up the clinical trial, recruiting the right patients, reimbursement strategies. I mean, they've been compounds that have been approved by the FDA but not received reimbursement, and they failed. So without reimbursement, you pretty much don't have a business. And then there's licensing strategies. So I think one of the challenges for science CEOs is to partner and get the knowledge on the business side of the strategy in addition to mechanism of action or how a compound works.
So, you just hit upon, I think, a key issue that a lot of inventors and scientists face. At what point in the process of developing your company do you think it's appropriate for a CEO to come in and run the business as opposed to the scientist developing into a CEO?
I think they need to work together right from the beginning. Or, depending on funding, let's assume you can afford and you have a CEO that will work with the scientist. I mean, really, the scientist needs to either get the knowledge of everything after mechanism of action, or partner with a CEO and I'll give you an example, reimbursement strategy should be done right away. The payers, and they're in this country today, there are two types. There's CMS, Medicaid and Medicare, and then private payers. The payers will tell you what they need to see in order to reimburse either the device or the compound. And you build that into your clinical trial, so you've got the data to show the payers. Conversely, you get FDA approval, you don't get reimbursement, you have to raise more money to do a clinical trial just to get reimbursement data, and then you're no longer CEO. So that's, we try to avoid that. And it's not, it's one of an orientation, maybe I'll call it an orientation disconnect. They don't teach this in medical school. They don't teach the business side of it. They teach here's the disease, here's what causes the disease, now here are the targets, and go get them.
Good. Steve, what do you think?
Well, a very early stage company frequently can't afford a quote professional kind of CEO, someone who's just coming in from the outside and who's going to run the company. And we tend to like to see that if we're going to get started in something that the scientist or people on their staff, and in the case of one of the companies that I mentioned before, Miramis, two of their postdocs wanted to leave the academic world and run the company. So there's always this transition ultimately to a professional marketing, a drug-related, depending on what the particular science is, where you need that kind of expertise to bring it forward. But we generally don't want to see simply bringing in a CEO and running the company and having the scientist pull back from the active involvement. It's got to be the scientist's enthusiasm and capability to help drive it forward. And budget-wise, it's usually very hard to give the right incentives at that earliest stage for somebody to come in as a CEO and give them 5% or 10% of the company and pay a high six-figure salary for something that is at an early risk stage. So again, it depends on where you are in the scheme of things on the timeline. But early stage, we generally don't look to bring in a CEO. We look to see those elements, the entrepreneurial spirit and drive in the founders of the company.
Okay, great.